Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my boy. In this video, I have you guys basically the complete only Slayer guide you really need. I'll be explaining everything in this game for the Slayer progression side. It will basically be a starter guide. It won't be like the complete progression all the way to level 200. But I'll just be explaining everything that you need to know, like what build to do, what breathing you guys should use based off your playstyle, how to level up your breathing, how to level up your sword. Basically, just everything you guys need to know. So if you guys end up enjoying the video, like and subscribe to the channel. My current goal is 30,000 subscribers. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Alright, so the first thing is obviously going to be how to get into Demon Hunter, because this guide will mean nothing if you don't even have access to the game. So to play Demon Hunter, it's pretty simple. There's a few different methods. You can wait and just pray that they do a wave event and you get lucky and win one of the giveaways. That is one method that you could do. It would take a long time to actually get inside the game, but that is one way that you could do it. Or you could spend $30 and kind of just get into it. There is another method, which is just kind of waiting for a YouTuber to get some giveaways to actually, give away wave. I know Ghost in the Cosmos has been doing it, but your chances are very low in that. Honestly, your best bet is just to buy the game. But getting right into Slayer, so obviously when you first spawn in, you're gonna pick the human thing. If you guys want to spin for your clan, you can. But pretty much the first major decision when you first start off as a Slayer is going to be picking your breathing. Now, there is two different builds based off of your breathing. You can either go a limb build or a burst build. So burst builds is what I want to explain first, because it's way easier to explain. It's kind of just the brain dead, get in their face, do a bunch of damage, but if they parry you like 3 times, they're just gonna regen all their HP. That's why some people say burst builds are worse than limb builds, which I kind of do agree, because literally if you let the person get any sort of distance from you on a burst build, they will just regen all of their HP. But the other build is way more passive. You have to play very calculated, and that's going to be a limb build. Limb builds basically take off this blood bar right here. This is the blood bar for demons. They will slowly take that down, and then when their blood bar is all the way down to 0, the demons, then they can actually start attacking. So it really just depends. Are you a more calculated, like slow player? You like to stand still and dash around a lot, because you do have to play pretty passive to play as a limb build? Or do you want to just be right in their face and kind of just murder people? It's really up to you. I would say burst builds is probably going to be funner for a lot of you guys. I personally really like limb build though. I'm on flower right now and it's pretty fun. But to actually decide what breathing you want, now that you've decided if you want to go limb or a burst build, basically what you're looking for is on the breathing. You guys will see basically the breathings will say plus limb damage. If it says plus limb damage, then it's for a limb build. If it just says plus damage or plus, just damage in general, so something like flame, beast, I think, no, sound has no downside. But yeah, beast and flame are basically the best ones at the current moment. And yeah, basically anything that's plus just base damage will be a burst build. Now there is some hybrid builds, but I'm not gonna lie, nobody really runs hybrid inside this game. It's not really recommended. Once when you guys are done picking your build, there is one thing that I highly recommend that you guys do, because now you're going to start your progression. To start your progression, you just press V. You'll pick the travel type mission. But before you start doing your missions, while you're leveling, you will get points to put in. When you guys are leveling up for the first time as a Slayer, I would say all the way up until about level 80, do not put any skill points in. If you guys put in skill points, then you can get stalker missions. What stalker missions is basically an actual nether player demon will hunt you down, and their only goal is to kill you. But obviously Slayers, they have a reputation of being way weaker early game, so that is why you basically don't put any points in until you're level 80. If you guys want to find a build for your burst or limb build, then just join the Demon Hunter Discord. It'll be linked inside the description. Get verified as a Slayer, and then they have a bunch of, every pillar basically post their build. A lot of high ranks post their build. You guys can just check that channel for builds there. But once you guys get your build, You know how to progress, all that. Basically, to progress, you just do missions. I would say once when you're like level 10, 15, obviously don't invest your skill points. Because you're not investing skill points, it really doesn't matter what level you do this, but you are going to have to do final selection. Now, final selection has a lot of different paths to get to. I'm not gonna personally show every single way to get to it, but just know final selection starts once an hour, and you have to get there a little bit early. I would say start running to it probably like 10 minutes early, just so you guarantee make it. But yeah, there is a lot of guides on YouTube on how to get to final selection. I'm not gonna personally show it inside this video, because I just went the easiest way, and there is a bunch of different ways to get to final selection. But yeah, pretty much, like I said, once when the hour starts, I highly recommend to do it on an hour that an event is not gonna start. We'll talk about events a little bit later. But yeah, pretty much, you'll do final selection. Now, final selection, you need 15 kills or assists. To get the assists to count for you, all you have to do is hit an NPC demon twice, okay? Hit them twice, back up, let the other slayers that are in the final selection with you do the damage, and then you'll be perfectly fine. It is actually very simple to do final selection, but you will have to kill or assist 15 demons in final selection, and you'll be in there for an hour. Final selection takes an hour. Even if you kill 30 demons, it doesn't matter. No matter what, it takes an hour in real life time, which is a kind of weird system. But while you're waiting, because more than likely you'll get your 15 kills or assists very early, while you're waiting, I would say make sure to not go AFK, because a hand demon, which is just an OP boss, don't even try to fight it, but a hand demon will spawn, and basically it'll 2-tap you. So don't go AFK inside final selection, unless if you have like a lot of people around you and you know that you'll be 100% safe, because the hand demon will probably murder you. But once when you're done with final selection, you get your Nichirin sword, and then you're kind of just chilling. Now you will start actually leveling up. Now, the first thing that I want to explain is the breathing, you know, how to level up your breathing and all that, and then we'll talk about leveling up your actual Nichirin sword to get that stronger. So the way the breathing leveling system works inside this game, you'll go to these rocks over here. There's a 20k rock and a 40k rock. These are going to be basically the two major ones in the early game. From levels, from your breathing level all the way from, I would say, level 1 to 15, 12-ish, you are going to use these 20k rocks. These 20k rocks will give you a decent amount of XP. I would say level 1 all the way to 8, it should only take 1 rock to level you up, but later on it will start taking more. But yeah, 20k, it's a decent amount of money, but like I said, we'll talk about events later, and events are by far the best way to actually obtain money. Once when you are around breathing level 10 or higher, I would say it's about time to go onto the 40k rocks, because 20k rocks simply won't do it in just one training anymore, so I would move on to the 40k rocks. Once when you, every 5 breathing levels, so let's say you do the 20k rock and you hit breathing level 5. Every 5 levels, you have to do door training. Now, door training, I believe the first one, so when you hit breathing level 5, you can do a 20k door. Once when you hit breathing level 10, I would move on to the 40k door. I believe 15, you can probably do a 40k door again. And then you're just going to want to do 60ks for basically the rest of the time. I know at level 10 breathing, you get constant, or what's it called, total concentration. You get total concentration at level 5, but it's not constant total concentration. You have to get all the way until level 25 for total concentration. And then the next big milestone for levels for breathing that you are going to want to go for is actually going to be level 40. Because level 40 is what you need to unlock See-Through World and Slayer Mark. There is way more requirements that I won't talk about in this video, just because it's not really, you know, early game. But yeah, that is basically what you'll do. You'll just do this until basically level 40. I would say you can stop the breathing training at 40 for a while, because after that, there's no real reason, I don't think, to actually do it. But maybe in the future there will be, so I believe the max is like 55. I would say just to max it out whenever you can. But like I said, it will take a lot of money. your main focus is just getting your breathing level to 25 so you can actually get total concentration constant, which will basically make it so you don't have to press buttons to breathe, which will just make the game instantly like 9 times funner. I am 1 level off of that currently, and I will say it does take a lot of money, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Now, here's one thing that a lot of people don't actually talk about that I know a lot of people do in early game, because I am a victim of this myself. Do not waste your money trying to get a good haircut early game. You can do that in late game once when you actually have a nice fit, you know, you're done progressing, all that. That is when I would say to actually go for a good hair. If you guys want to spin your hair, you just go to this person right here in the Tokyo, you know, area. But yeah, do not spend money on hair early game. I know a lot of people want their drip early game. I wanted my drip early game. But to get this hair that I have right here, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll only spend like 50k. But I had to spend like literally 700k, which just ruined my progression early game. Like, I probably could have been breathing level like 35 by now. But instead, I spent my first 700k on this game all on hair, which really just stunted the progression as a Slayer. Alright, so now for your Nichirin training slash, you know, progression, because you actually do have to add on upgrades to your Nichirin sword later on in the game to make it stronger. But real quick, I'm just showing you guys how to actually get there. So when you guys go to planes, that's the way to teleport to Tokyo. Over there will teleport you somewhere else. But basically, the opposite side of this mountain, you'll see this little tunnel over here. And this is actually how you get to the blacksmith. Now, the blacksmith is where you basically do everything for your sword. The most amount of time you will spend at the blacksmith will be when you get a dual blade. When your blade's durability gets low, you'll get something called a dual blade, and you have to run over here to actually repair it. It's very annoying, and it actually happens way more often than you would think. But yeah, you do have to come over here and actually repair your sword every single time you want to do this, which is a little unfortunate, but yeah. So basically, you'll get to the swordsmith village, you'll just keep running forward, and then you'll get to this place right here where you'll see all the clothing. And this is basically what you do. You go to this blacksmith, and yeah, right here. Now, there is a bunch of different things that you need to know about the blacksmith. So the first one is just how to get your actual HP back. So you need 3 Starlit Ore. It doesn't really matter on the grid. And then you need these ones right here as well, the Crimson Iron Sand. You just do this, and this will actually fully repair your sword all the way back to max, which is just something good. And then there's actual upgrades. Now, there's a lot of different upgrades. There is Siphon, which Siphon is really good for limb builds. And then there is Affinity, which actually takes these stones right here. So you're breathing, you'll get Flower Affinity. This is basically to do more damage with your breathing. I believe that's what it does. Then there is Nichirin upgrade as well, which I believe you use these right here. And then there is one for quality as well, which uses, I believe, these sharpening stones and, you know, a bunch of other stuff. But you simply don't want to go quality. Quality is not what you want to do. It is probably the worst upgrade that you could do to your sword, and quite literally would probably ruin it. It wouldn't ruin it, it would make it stronger slightly, but you don't want to build for quality. I would say if you're a limb build, go Siphon or Affinity, and if you're a burst build, I believe you run Nichirin or Affinity. It really just depends on your certain breathing, certain build, what the pillar build says inside the Discord, whatever it says in there. That is what you guys are going to want to do. Now, talking about limb builds and burst builds again, is actually going to be your skill tree. So you guys can see your skill tree. There's a bunch of different skills. There's 5 different things. There's dexterity, constitution, technique, intelligence, and strength. Now, I'll explain burst builds first, and then I will go into the other one, limb builds. So burst builds mainly rely on strength and constitution, because constitution is just HP, and then strength is just you doing more damage. I believe you go a little bit into intelligence as well, and I think a little bit into technique as well as a burst build. Dexterity you don't use because it is simply bad. Dexterity you will never use unless if they buff it. I know it used to do something, but now it does nothing. So Constitution is for HP. Technique is basically just making your techniques more effective. Intelligence will give you a bigger breath capacity, which is actually pretty good. Most breathings require you to get to 40 or 30. I know flower, personally, I know 30, but a lot of breathings do require you to go 40 for asthma and I think other things like that. You'll have to do research depending on what breathing that you do. And then burst builds are the only ones that you go strength. Now, if you guys are a technique build like me, then you guys will obviously not go strength because strength is not what limb builds go. They mainly go technique. You guys can see I have 50 points invested. I will personally stop at 70. Intelligence, I'm doing 30, and then Constitution, I'll just be doing like 100. Constitution is pretty important. It's way weaker on Slayers, but it is still pretty important. And also your innate technique will really kind of change your build as well. I know the Slayer guides, the pillar builds and all that inside the Discord will tell you which innate you want to run for your build, but pretty much limb builds you want to get Constitution or Technique as your innate, and then as a burst build you want Strength or you want Constitution. Constitution just means you can run whatever you want, but basically one thing that I forgot to explain earlier when the video first started, when I was talking about, you know, limb builds versus burst builds, is it really depends on what your innate is. If you spawn in with an innate Strength, you're not going to want to go limb build, even if it's what you want to use. It will be weaker. You can still run it, but I would personally not recommend you to run it. The other way as well, if you spawn in with an innate technique, I would personally not tell you guys to go a burst build, just because, you know, it kind of counteracts the whole build that you're trying to go. You can try to go a hybrid build, but like I said earlier, they're just not nearly as strong as going full limb or full burst. So your innate really does, you know, kind of dictate what build you're going as well. If you get Constitution, like I said, it does not matter because you can just go whatever you want, really. Now, the last thing that I want to explain in this video is going to be permadeath events, actual events, and just a little bit more on the progression. So the first thing that I want to talk about is going to be the progression and permadeath events. So progression, like I said, you just do travel missions, you'll get teleported to a place. It's pretty simple. But there is a chance that permadeath event will start, which it starts every 1 to 3 days, and it starts very late at night. So if you don't play late at night, then you kind of don't have to worry about this. But pretty much the way a permadeath event works is after you hit level 80, if you die inside a permadeath event, you will wipe, and then you have to start your progression all over again. If you wipe at level 151, I believe, then you can unlock the legacy breathings, which include stone, love, and sound. The only one that's even really considered decent, in my opinion, is sound, and it's not even really that great. I would personally not really recommend to go for the legacy breathings unless they get buffed. But like I said, if you wipe at level 151, you will unlock those. If you wipe at level 80, you get nothing. But yeah, like I said, permadeath events will spawn randomly. They'll spawn inside a random region. It will only be one region. So for example, a permadeath event cannot be in Tokyo and the forest at the same time. It will only be inside the forest. I know yesterday there was a permadeath event and it was only inside the forest for the whole time. So that is one thing that you have to take into consideration. But what you can do is log from the mission, because the only way that you will wipe from logging from a mission is if you're being stalked. If you're being stalked, you cannot leave. You have to win that 1v1. Because if you lose the 1v1 and you're above level 80, you will wipe. Now, like I said, if you are below level 80, you're not going to put in skill points anyways, which means it's impossible for you to get stalked. So if you are like level 78 and permadeath events start, do not put in skill points and just level up, because what permadeath events do is also gives you 3 times mission XP. So if you just don't put any points in, you can't get stalked, and you'll just keep doing your low level missions with 3x XP, and then you'll just be fine. But what I will say is, once when you get inside the level 90 region, I would stop doing that, because then you can go against the upper moons, you'll get the upper moon mission, and there's a decent chance that you will wipe from that mission. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, probably the last thing I'll talk about in this video, is going to be the normal event system inside this game. So normal events spawn every odd hour. So for example, 3 p.m., 5 p.m., you know, an odd number. So, you know, 1, 2, 1, 3, 5, odd numbers. That is when events start. It is every 2 hours, basically, on odd numbers. And you can either did a normal event, which is like capture the flag, protect the king, you know, things like that. And basically the only way for these events to actually start is for your server to have demons in it. I believe it's like 5 demons. It's a very low number, but you have to have some demons inside your server. If you do get the Slayer rule, there's event hosters and things like that that will tell you what server to join. But they are kind of stupid, I'm not gonna lie. They barely like ever actually host servers. But yeah, these events are very good. You did a lot of XP. You did a lot of money. I believe you did 150k every single event. And they're just overall really, really good. There is another event type called Gauntlet. That happens every other event. So basically every 4 hours, a Gauntlet will start. And every 4 hours, an event will start. Gauntlet is pretty much just a big arena where a certain amount of Slayers will fight a certain amount of demons. Most of the time, Slayers win. It just depends if you're inside the Demon Main. Basically, what Demon Main server means is that is the main event server for the Demon side. If you're stuck inside that server, you're kind of just gonna lose the Gauntlet event. But yeah, that is basically everything that I personally know as a Slayer. Obviously, there is some more stuff for like later end game progression. But that is basically everything that you guys should need to know. As far as events, permadeath, leveling, you know, your Nichirin stats, basically everything. I tried to explain as good as possible, so if you guys ended up enjoying this video, like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, my current goal is 30,000 subscribers, and yeah, I'll see you guys inside the next video. Peace.